Hey guys, welcome to Serious Laughs. This is episode 28, Psychedelics and a Woman's Changing Hormones, Microdosing and Menopause. What role do psychedelics play in treating hormonal changes?
I didn't want to go back on antidepressants or anti-anxiety. I just didn't want to go through the whole process. And a friend of mine, tennis player actually, had said to me, have you ever thought about, and she had said this to me a year before I actually did it. So I took a year to actually get comfortable with doing it. Mm-hmm. But she had said, have you ever tried microdosing? And I was like, no. I did not know very much about it at all. I was like, me? No. I haven't done drugs in like 5 years. No, just kidding.
No, it was a normal reaction. I do. I think it's a normal reaction if you haven't done drugs. That's like a perfect reaction. No.
Right.
Wait,
I was like,
what is that?
I think I am.
Yeah.
No, it was funny because I actually, full disclosure here, I had never done psychedelics ever. I mean, I guess I smoked pot every once in a while, but like every once in a while, maybe twice in my life. I didn't like it, but I haven't tried any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Never done mushrooms, never done, I don't know, whatever else, the psychedelics, acid, any of that. I had never done it. I was like, I am not the person to do that. I will be the person that jumps off a house, like that'll be me. I am not the person to try those drugs. And so I just had never done it. So when she started talking to me about microdosing psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms, I was like, no, I can't do that. And then I started, so I kind of let it go. And she does like these whole plant journeys, what they call plant journeys. So she does like the whole, and she now leads them. And so she takes people on, this is not microdosing what they do. I'm sure you guys have heard about those things. And for me, I mean, that is not even like, I will not even go there because there's always the possibility of upchucking, and I do not do that. So yeah, I have a horrible fear of throwing up and throw up.
Upchucking.
Yes.
Yes. I thought you said upchecking.
I know.
Okay.
You're like, what is that? Upchucking.
What you were referring to?
As my 4-year-old says, barking. He thinks
barking.
Yes, barfing.
Oh.
He thinks we're saying, we're like, oh my God, he's barfing. And he thinks we're saying barking.
Barking, of course.
And I was like, he's telling people, I barked 5 times, I'm like, I barked.
Upchecked.
Yeah, he upchucked. I think that actually might be worse. that word.
Oh my
sounds
gosh.
gross. Anyway, so I was not interested in her plant journey. However, after talking to her about microdosing and seeing, and then doing a lot of research on my own and seeing like there are some major benefits that they've proven scientifically, even though it's not really talked about because it's not really legal in most places. Mm-hmm. So it's tough to get around it, but like the more people in the psych space that I talk to, the more people really believe this should be something that is legal, that people should be able to get their hands on for things like depression and anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so after about a year of really researching it and really getting comfortable with it, it's still not a comfortable process to get a hold of it. You still feel like, oh my God, am I going to, get in trouble for this? I'm such a rule follower. I'm not like, I don't do illegal things ever. So, but at that point in my life, which was when we had moved to Tennessee, so in 23, I was like, I need to do something. And I don't want to wait 4 weeks to figure out if the antidepressant that this doctor puts me on is going to work or not, because it takes 4 weeks for an antidepressant to get into your bloodstream. I was desperate. Mm. And so I called my friend's guy, and I know it's bizarre. He's like he's a plant doctor or witch doctor. I don't know what you want to call him, but he basically, and I haven't talked about this in a while, so I can't think of all the terms, but he takes the mushrooms, he forages the mushrooms, he takes them, he dries them, he breaks them down into basically pills and then sends them out to people. And I actually, the friend that had introduced me to this guy, I don't know what to call him. Her partner is a PhD in psychology, clinical psych, and he uses him. So I felt pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like there were a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists, which is what my friend was, who used this guy. So I felt safe about getting the psilocybin through him. And he talked to me for a while about like, you know, what are you looking for this to do? Because you could take a whole bunch of these and you would no longer be microdosing. This would be, you'd be full on, you could trip, you know, but
okay. Can you go, what is tripping? And is that involving the barfing?
Well, so I don't know. The plant journeys you could, that people do now, like you'll hear about people going to, I don't know, South America and doing like, they drink something that has like a frog poison in it or something. Mm-hmm. And that tends to make people throw up, but people have these incredible experiences and you have somebody there that's leading you through this journey. So you're safe. Mm-hmm. I could never do that, let go enough to do that. But I've listened to podcasts where people have done this and they say they get great things psychologically from it, especially if you have a lot of trauma. I guess it's kind of, and like the throwing up is sort of seen as like you're throwing up all this trauma. Mm. I don't know. That is a little beyond for me. I'm crunchy, but I'm not that crunchy. So I yeah. And they lose me at barking, of course. So I'm like, nope, won't be doing that. Not even a possibility. I barely eat sushi now. So,
oh my gosh. Well, I love this. We just jumped right in and I started recording because you just started talking about some really interesting stuff. But to the listeners, guys, we have Kristy SWAILES back. She was on, a few episodes ago talking about just how a blended family could up and move and turn their life around and like the peacefulness about it. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and check it out. But she's back because we're talking about psychedelics and their role in treating hormonal changes. As we heard a little bit in Kristy's story, she's got a master's in clinical psychology. She helps women navigate all the changes during menopause, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause through a holistic lens, mind, body, and spirit. I freaking love that. She's all about mental and physical health and wellness mindset. And there's so much information you just put out there in the last 8 minutes.
I know. Sorry to make
no, it's fantastic. I literally
this is going to help so many.
Yeah. And like you said, I've heard about microdosing a little bit on podcasts, and I've also heard about the plant journeys, as you call them, which I love it. And I think you can call your guy a plant doctor. I like that name for him. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really fascinating that you were able to use this microdosing with psilocybin to help your depression and anxiety during menopause. Mm-hmm. God, where to even start?
Well, I do have some disclaimers because
yes, go ahead and get them out.
Every mushroom is different. So the response that I had to it is not necessarily recording error. Is that fine?
I think you're good.
Okay. The response that I had is not necessarily the response that everybody's going to have. And, full stop. Mm-hmm. You have to go into it being open to it. Like I said, I was at that point where I was desperate and I really wanted it to work. And I really did not want to go back on antidepressants and go through that whole, I think they're great. I'm glad it's an option. For me, it was not an option at the time. I did not want to go through the 4 weeks of getting the antidepressant through my bloodstream so we could see if it was going to work. I didn't want to do that. That to me made me feel more depressed. So with what I liked about psilocybin and microdosing is you don't feel anything. You know, like the first time I took one, I sort of was like, do I feel something? Am I going to feel something? Even though I knew, like the plant doctor and my girlfriend had said, you don't feel anything. The only thing that maybe you notice is that the world seems more positive. That's it. And I was like, well, that's kind of what antidepressants do if they're working correctly for you. Mm-hmm. It's not something you don't want to feel it. And for me, I was really nervous about feeling anything. I mean, I don't even drink anymore. So I don't want to feel out of my head or out of my body at all. I don't like weed. I want to be present. Mm-hmm. And she had said to me, look, the only thing that you might experience is a feeling of positivity. You might notice your world is beautiful. Hmm. And I have to say, like, you might look at the trees and notice how pretty they are. Whereas I think, you know, normally you walk through life and you're like, oh, it's another tree. You know, you don't notice these things. And I will say she was absolutely right. Now, maybe she put that in my head and I was thinking that, but I will say that's the thing that's the only thing I noticed. There's no feeling, there's no, I'm not seeing spots or anything, you know, like the mm-hmm. only thing that I can say I noticed is that I was very present and I appreciated things that I wasn't necessarily able to appreciate before I took it. The other thing that I loved about the idea of this was that it actually, and they do have scientifically discovered that psilocybin actually helps heal your brain. It heals the synapses. It heals. And again, I'm not a doctor. I can't talk about this exactly, but you can look it up and mm-hmm. see some of the studies that have been done, that it actually heals your brain versus just being a Band-Aid like pharmaceuticals. So uh-huh. a Band-Aid obviously helps relieve your symptoms, but God forbid you forget it when you go on vacation. You forget your Prozac when you go on vacation and you have 4 days that you haven't taken it, and you cannot cold turkey get off your antidepressants or you will go into a tailspin. I know this firsthand. I did not. It was very scary. You cannot do that. And so what I liked about the psilocybin was that and I made sure I asked it 50 million different ways. And then I also did a lot of research on it, that if you don't take it one day, in fact, you're not supposed to take it every day. There's like a specific, I think I was taking 3 days on, 1 day off. So there are different ways that you can do it. If you continually take it every day, you're going to stop, your body's going to stop responding to it. So they don't want you to take it every day, you know, moving forward. They want you to be on sort of like, there are different sort of protocols to taking it, schedules to take it. What I was doing was 3 days on, 1 day off. And I can't remember what other people do other things, but the reason you do that is so that your body does not get used to it. Mm-hmm. And I was taking the very lowest dose. Some people take a little bit more. It just depends. You really have to figure it out. But if you could, and I did this, you can stop taking it cold turkey and nothing happens. But the biggest thing for me was just healing the brain, because we know that people have depression, anxiety. There's obviously your brain is not functioning correctly. So I loved that mushrooms, from everything I read, they have discovered that it actually helps to heal the brain, not just mask the problem or mask the symptoms. And I went into it, having read these things and believing in that. And so for me, it really helped me. And I actually haven't taken them in probably a year now, and I haven't felt the need to.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
I almost feel, listening, Molly, that the pharmaceutical medical community doesn't want this access because of financial reasons.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a whole other like month-long podcast, honestly.
Yeah.
And there was a time that I was really involved in sort of big pharma and learning about all of that. And, you know, some people would say it's all conspiracy theories, but look, I'm very happy for modern medicine. I'm glad that we have it as an option. But if I can avoid, for me personally, if I think less toxins in our body is better and less chemicals in our body is better. It certainly is for menopause. And so there's, and our children, and, you know, I think my intuition just makes me not want to have to rely on pharmaceuticals, period, end of story. And so again, I'm grateful that they're there, that we have those options. But if I can avoid using those options, I do. So that means I focus on things like trying to stay away from toxins. And obviously you can't, you know, nobody's perfect. We're never going to look at the world we live in. We're always going to have them in our environment. They're always going to be around us. Our furniture, everything, computers, cell phones, we're always going to have it. But what can you do to, where can you make changes in your life so that you're living with less toxins? You know, it's not about doing it perfectly. It's not about being crazy about it. It's not about like replacing every single mattress and couch in your house. That gets crazy. But it is about like, well, where can I shift my life to live with less toxins? And how can I do that? And that's the other thing that I help people with, is just kind of figuring out those little holes in their life where maybe they could switch over their beauty products. Maybe they could switch over the soap. Maybe they want to, you know, get a whole house water filter in their home. But there's a lot of things that people just don't realize they could be doing to eliminate toxins in certain areas, which ultimately I feel is, you know, leads to a longer life without medications all the time.
Yeah. So. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
What do you wish, what is your goal? I mean, is it menopause awareness for women specifically, or is it you want to help with any kind of hormonal changes? So a woman listening to this who has polycystic ovarian syndrome, but they're not menopausal. Maybe they're peri, you know.
Yeah. So I would say, obviously I'm not going to fix any of these issues because menopause is not something you fix.
Right.
So I like to think of myself as like, I help women with mindset shifts or reframing of the way they think about their lives and who they are. So I work on both existential ideas and more tangible ideas, which to some, those tangibles, and to me, certainly, I just thought that was so obvious and simple, but I'm finding more and more that women don't actually know the simple changes they can do to help themselves. And sometimes that comes out of just being so busy and so used to how they were before as a woman, before some of these changes have occurred. And this is more speaking on menopause, perimenopause. And sometimes it happens so quickly that, you know, you find yourself just fighting against the changes and just trying to stay with this person that you've always been. And like, it's not working the same, but I'm fighting against it without even knowing that you're fighting. And life just starts to seem a lot harder. And, you know, you just can't find that person that you've always been. And so I think what I like to do is listen to people's stories and then say, you know, have you ever thought that that maybe it's time to accept some of these changes that are happening to your body? And by existential, that's what I'm talking about, is like, there are things that are happening, right? And have we accepted those things yet? Because with those things come symptoms, and the symptoms can really disrupt your life. And if you haven't accepted that these things are normal and they're going to happen, I think that's where you fight. You fight yourself, you fight what's happening. So I like to look at it like this is just another phase of development. Like when you were 13, you were very different than when you were 25 and a lot of and 35, and a lot of that's acceptable, right? It's accepted that you're going to go from sort of teenage angst and hormonal issues in your teens to being a 35, hopefully well-adjusted adult, with other problems. But that's development. And I think it's lost on adults that menopause is another stage of development. And we have changes that happen, and we have to accept them, but you can only accept them if you have the psychoeducation to understand what is actually happening. And then how can I help people to maybe it's slow down, accept these things, and then say, okay, I'm still trying to, an example would be, I'm still trying to kill myself at the gym for an hour because in my mind, it's always been an hour of cardio. That's what's going to burn your fat. If you don't do it for an hour, then, good luck to you. And for people with this hormonal shift, that's not the case anymore. In fact, you're doing yourself a great disservice by going to the gym and spending an hour and raising your cortisol rather than just going outside, getting some vitamin D and walking around. And these are the things that, talking to a friend, community, these are the things that when you're dealing with this sort of internal crisis, that you first have to be aware of, and second have to be flexible and willing to do these changes, willing to let go of these old ideas that at one time worked for you. Because without that flexibility, you're just going to fight, and it's going to make it so much harder. And a lot of people, it's like, they also have a hard time adjusting to physical changes, the body changes, hair, skin, breasts getting larger or, drooping more, or that skin too. And the issues that you run into with menopause also include this cognitive part, this mental part, which also makes it difficult to be more flexible. So it's recognized. So for me, it's recognizing this in women that I'm working with, and being able to help them come to terms with that. And I know I probably didn't totally answer your question, but
you did. You're a godsend. Like, I hope this goes viral, what you've just said. There's so many sound bites that need to go viral here.
Yeah.
Because I think, I don't know about you, Molly, but it really hit me, Kristy, when you said, what used to work doesn't work anymore. And you gave a tangible example of the gym. And the body is just not the same. And there's a bit of mourning that goes on.
Yes.
But we shove it down, right? We don't allow, you just gave me, listening to this, a space in my heart to acknowledge the mourning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that's just huge in helping people get through this time. And, I am not, you see these things on Instagram all the time. I will balance your hormones. I will fix you. I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I am not going to fix or balance anybody's hormones. In fact, this is kind of a funny story too. When I was working in skincare and I would have clients come in, this kind of led me down this path, I would say. I would have clients come in with hormonal acne, whether they were younger or, in my case, with most of my clients, they were entering menopause or perimenopause. And a lot of them, it was early onset. So we're looking 40s and up. And when I was talking, I had a dermatologist friend that I spoke to quite frequently about different cases that I had. And she said, look, hormones are stronger than any medication. She said to me, hormones are stronger than any medication I could give you. So good luck. And that's kind of, you know, when I really think about it, and even in my own story, you would really have to, you can get a baseline test on your hormones, but you kind of have to hope that, and I do always think that's a good idea every year to run those labs. And you'll find that some women are running them every month. I just don't believe that because hormones are so, they fluctuate so much, especially when we're going through these changes. I just don't feel like that blood work really, it tells you something, but you could go in the very next day and do blood work and it could be totally different in your hormones because hormones fluctuate so much. And so that said, I am not ever going to say that I want to balance your hormones. I want to fix your hormones. I believe that supporting people mentally and physically is something that doesn't happen enough. And there are known things that a person can do to support their hormone changes. And so for me to educate people on those things nutritionally, you know, supplement wise, and I would only be making suggestions based on science, on evidence that we have, how I could help, you know, suggestions on how to eat healthier to support hormones, meaning how, and those are some of the things that I sort of assumed people knew, but many people do not know. And I think just because it's in my space, Molly, for you too, being a fitness trainer, you probably see it all the time. And I just sort of assumed everybody knows that, like how to eat with less toxins. You know, what's the number you should look at on your labels at the store to make sure things are, you know, organic if you can do that, or just certainly to not buy things that have a 3 in the front of them, you know, versus a 4 or a 9, and make sure you're washing the fruits and vegetables, things like that, that just, to me, seems like it's common knowledge, but it's really not. And that's what I found when I started working with people. So, you know, and by tangible, what I was saying before, it would be things like if somebody came to me and said, you know, I just, I want to clean out my kitchen. I want to get my kitchen healthier. How can I do that? I just don't know what to do. I would, you know, I could help them do that. So it could be something as tangible as that, or it could be, you know, if somebody said, I want to start accepting my body. I don't fit in any of my clothes anymore. I keep fighting to try and get in my clothes. I'm constantly on a diet, but I'm ready to start accepting this change. Can you help me? And then maybe one of my suggestions would be, let's go through your clothes. Let's do your, I will help you go through your clothes together. And let's just see if we can, you know, get rid of some of the stuff that you're not fitting into right now. And let's do it in a fun, positive way. Let's reframe the way we think about it. And then let's go get you some stuff that fits you now and fits you today. And you can feel good in it today. So it's like tangible things like that. But then it's also like some people don't know that sleep is a real issue, obviously, when you're going through these changes. And what can I help them come to possibly help that sleep? Like, how much caffeine are they getting in the day? Because that certainly is not going to be helping them. And how much vitamin D are you getting? How much are you moving your body? Like, what can we do? Maybe it's the cortisol. Maybe you're, you know, you're overly stressed because you're thinking so much. And how can we slow down the brain? Do we incorporate some meditation? Do we incorporate, you know, getting offline earlier in the day? You know, it's like, it's simple little things, but sometimes people just don't know.
Or they don't see themselves. They can't be objective. So you're a life coach for a woman's transition.
That's right.
And you've been in the trenches, because you're like, yeah, I know anxiety and depression from hormones. I've been there, done that. And if I can get out of those trenches, you can too.
That's right. And look, nothing's ever perfect. That's the other thing. That's part of the accepting, educating, normalizing, helping them shift, supporting them through that, creating a community in some cases, and kind of laughing through it. Because I think that's the other piece, is that we just finding joy in things. That was a big thing for me. I would get on the floor with my 4-year-old and I was like in my mind going, I hate this. And to feel that way about playing with your child, that was it for me. That was the minute I was like, I need help. I need help. I can't feel this way about playing with my child because I'm exhausted. And so
was that kind of the linchpin then, where you said, I need help with this, and that's the decision where you're like, I'm going to start looking into the microdosing?
Yes, that was it for me.
So I'm curious then, so it definitely, you feel it had a positive effect on your depression and anxiety. And I think it's safe to assume that you probably were already eating pretty well, taking care of yourself, nutrition wise. Were there any other things that you noticed while you were microdosing, aside from just overall like a feeling of, I don't know, vibrancy, or how would you describe the feeling? And then were there any other things that you felt it helped?
I think that, no, I didn't feel any other changes. I accept that I was less anxious. I was more fun-loving, like genuinely laughed more. I laughed more. Not like, smoke weed and laugh a lot. It wasn't like that. It was, I just laughed. I started laughing again, I should say. Things seemed funny to me again. Whereas before, I was so serious about everything because I was depressed and I was, I had so much anxiety. So yeah, I would say that was the biggest thing for me, was just being able to laugh again and having fun with my kids again. And sometimes I go, was it me or was it the psilocybin? I don't really care. Either way, it helped. And so, whether it's a placebo or it's not, I don't believe that it is. I do believe that these mushrooms do something to your brain. I do believe that. But I'm also I'm a realist. And so I have moments where I'm like, was that just me? This is just me. But at the end of the day, who cares?
All right. That's true. That's true. You fucking feel better.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So your belief might change your brain's chemistry, which changes your life.
Absolutely. We know it does.
Right. And I'm with you, Kristy. I don't care how I get there. I just need to get there.
That's right.
The end result.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what you're offering. You're kind of like your own psychedelic for your clients because they feel less overwhelmed. I know if I had to go through my closet now, my menopausal closet, like I would feel so much better knowing, Kristy is going to guide me.
Because it's just, Well, that's so funny you mentioned that, Kristy, because I swear to God, I was going to do that today. I'm not even joking.
Oh, that's so funny.
I was going to, there's genes that have fit me in the past and my body's just different. And it's weird. It's not like I've put on weight. It's just different.
It shifts.
And it shifts. It's totally shifted. And so something that fit me even 2 years ago, I said, these fucking pants I have hanging in my closet, right? I'm getting rid of them today. So they're not going to fit me. And if I put them on, I'm going to cry and then I'm going to go eat some shit. And so literally that's what I plan on doing today. And I'm going to take it to like a resale store. And I love that, knowing that like I can do that and not be ashamed that I'm doing it because my body is just different now. And I love that how did you phrase it? You're just going through another shift. It's another regeneration. It's a new version of you. And it's not something that, and it's not something that I feel like, bless my mother's heart. She always just would say, sorry, honey, it's just going to suck. Just get through it. Well, I don't want to just get through it.
Yeah.
Like, cause that sounds horrible.
That was our mother's generation. Yeah.
Right. It's going to be several years of my life. And I feel it creeping on. I'm perimenopausal right now. And I want to be able to continue to enjoy life while I go through this new change. So I love everything that you're saying.
Well, it helps us embrace it and not feel ashamed. There was a shame our mothers carried that they meant well, but like it was the thing you didn't talk about.
Right. That's right. And it's accepting it. And I think the biggest problem is that they don't know how to help us yet. There is not a lot of research being done on women's health. And so it's really difficult. And that's because nobody talked about it. I mean, when I asked my mom about this stuff, and some people truly don't really notice anything when they go through it, but I think the majority of people do. But my mom doesn't remember a thing about it. But she also never had bad periods. So maybe there's some correlation there. I always had terrible periods. I don't know. But the bottom line is there's just not enough research being done. I think it's getting better because people are talking about it now. A lot of people are talking about it now. And I do think it'll continue to get better. But it's tough. It's just, it happens. Nobody's going to fix it because there's nothing to fix. It's part of our bodies. It's like trying to tell us that we're no longer going to have, childbearing abilities, which happens for some people, but it's part of a woman,
right,
to go through menopause. Even if you go through surgical menopause, you're going to go through it. Our hormones change. It's part of what we are, how we're made. The other thing that I think is really important to point out is that there are medical interventions for hormonal issues. Obviously, we have HRT now. We have bioidentical hormones. We have estrogen creams. We have progesterone creams. We have pills. A lot of times people are put on, especially in perimenopause, doctors will put them on antidepressants to help with those symptoms, and anti-anxiety, because anxiety is a big one too that happens to women when they're going through these things. But it's not lost on me that being able to obtain medical interventions for hormone issues is very costly, and it is hard to find insurance that will pay for this. I mean, you can't, as far as I know, you can't get HRT paid for by insurance. So it's expensive and people can't do it. And it's a privilege to be able to do it.
Which is a reflection again of how society views women.
That's right.
I can't help but feel that if we were talking about a man's changes, it would be, well, yeah, I mean, that has to be covered. Yeah.
That's right.
And even the way we, oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm getting all worked up.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's why it's important to have a resource like myself or people that do what I do to be able to have some options for relief that aren't necessarily medical interventions. And I'm not over here working for free, but I'm certainly not charging what I saw therapists charging in LA, and and I'm not, it's not the kind of thing where, I'm not pushing products on people and supplements. I'm finding ways that people can get relief without and find autonomy, because women are strong and resilient, and sometimes we just need a gentle push to realize we actually have the answers. And if we don't know them yet, we can figure them out with a gentle push in the right direction. And that's where I come in versus just being able to spend all sorts of money every month to get your blood work done and to get your HRT and to get, all of those things, which are amazing that we have the ability to have those as an option, but not everyone does. And so what do those people do for relief? And that's kind of where I feel like I fit in there. because
you're offering tools for women.
Yeah.
You're teaching them how to fish instead of giving them the fish on a plate and saying, let's find out if your PPO accepts this. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's more like, because I still feel, and I see it a lot more here now that we're in Tennessee, but I do feel like there's still a stigma on therapy and going to therapy. But if somebody feels like, oh, it's just my menopause coach or my support coach, or she just helps me get through life right now, without having to say my therapist or my counselor or whatever, that is also something that can be helpful. So yeah, I just think that women need help through this transition. And you had asked before about what about women that have PCOS? I mean, I feel like I can still help women like that. I don't know as much about PCOS. And so like in terms of nutrition and supplements and things that I can help with when it comes to menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, I don't have all of that background on PCOS or like, gut issues or they all kind of roll around each other in a lot of ways. But I just feel like where I excel and sort of where my knowledge is in this space. And so, just hormone changes and how to navigate.
I love it. You're going to help so many women. What do you wish that you could tell every woman who's going through perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause? What would, if you could put it out there to the world for everyone to hear, what do you think that would be?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Just that what they're going through is very real, and they're allowed and should talk about it with someone they feel safe talking about it with. Because a lot of times it's not your partner. And so finding support, whether it's through a group, through a community, through one-on-one, through friends, but it's important that they have people to talk to, and that it's very real. They're not going crazy. They're not losing their minds. That the changes are very real and they affect people in very, very real ways and very different ways. And so feeling like you can be open about that, I think, is really important.
You're a godsend.
Oh, Kristy, you're so smart.
So smart. No.
If anybody knew Kristy back when we were like 20 and 25, I could tell you some stupid shit she used to do.
Without mushroom.
Without.
Only took me 4 to 9 years to get here.
Oh, hey, whatever. You got there. Oh, look at I froze. Look how ugly that was.
That was cute, though.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. I'll never forget the earthquake, Kristy. The earthquake that happened when we lived in Koreatown.
Oh, boy.
We'll have to have you on again because you were just a wealth of knowledge. And I personally feel like this could also be another episode. Just continue to talk about menopause. I just think it's so important. I think women are afraid of it. I was ready to just start ignoring it. And I know that I can't. And I want to be able to embrace it. And I feel like you could be someone to help women embrace it and just embrace it.
Embrace it. No, stop making it I notice women our age will whisper it. Like, well, when we were younger, we'd be like, I got my period, right? And now we're like, it's menopause.
Well, I mean, don't you feel like too? There's a stigma that comes with it too that you're not attractive anymore.
Yeah.
You don't want to say you're going through menopause. What would men think? Or whatever you choose, but like, I don't know.
It's what we've been raised with, that mindset of you're the woman in the corner. you know, between your legs is tumbleweed. I mean, it's just, you know, it means gobble neck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really interesting thing, because I think that was something that I had to work with myself on accepting, was the changes that were occurring, not so much with my body, but with my face and my skin and my hair. Because I did go through pretty significant like time when my hair started falling out. And that was probably a year ago. And just going, oh my gosh, because I remember seeing women who had started losing their hair. And obviously I have a lot of hair left, but you notice it in yourself. And it was really concerning to me. And and same thing with my skin. Like, I used to work in skincare. And so I noticed these things a lot in myself when they start changing. The other thing that I started thinking about, because I never saw myself as getting older. I always kind of looked at myself the same way, like no matter what my age was. But moving to a new city and sort of at first starting out and going, do I want to get a job here? Do I want to just get a job and start meeting people? And I really started thinking about, like, I would look at jobs and I go, oh, I could do that. I did that, you know. And then I would catch myself and say, well, hold on, I can't do that now. I'm never going to get that job now because of my age.
Yep.
Which is a whole show right there. What you just said, women and aging,
and how you that idea that, and I had heard this before. I had heard this being talked about. I had read articles about women disappearing as they age. In the eyes of everybody else, you're still very real in here, but in the eyes of everybody else, women disappearing because you lose your beauty or whatever it is. And that was something that I went through and had to find acceptance. And I guess that's the acceptance piece that I talk about a lot too, is just reframing. Just because the world might talk about that, we have to reframe it. We have to reframe the way we see it for ourselves. And accept that we are still very worthy of life and growing older. Life doesn't end at 50, you know, because things may be changing in you. And that's the other thing, is like shifting your mindset from what does my body look like? What do I look like, to how can I live longer? Like, if we focus on living longer, your priorities in the gym, in the kitchen, in your everyday life, your priorities completely change.
Yep.
When you start thinking about, how do I live longer for my children? How do I live longer so I can take care of my mother? How do I live longer?
How do I take care of this vessel instead of how can I garner attention with this vessel?
Yes, exactly. So it's a real reframing. And I don't think, unless you obsess over it like I do, I don't think it's something that you think about and start to work on, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they need somebody that's the gentle nudge, you know?
Well, we want to nudge people in your direction if they're interested, in having that friend, that confidant, that partner, that girlfriend who can kind of cheer them on and, you know, lead them in the right direction. And I just love what you're doing, Kristy. I miss you. I wish you lived closer. I know. One day. One day. This is as good as it gets for now. I know.
That's right.
But y'all, on Instagram, it's KLS Wellness House. If you want to reach out, I don't think you would have given us that. If you don't, I mean, I'm certainly, you can probably take messages from people.
I I mean, and I will say, my Instagram is something that I fight with all the time. I actually don't like social media. I think it's really bad for our mental health. I think it's bad for everything. I realize we have to have it if we have businesses. So that KLS Wellness House is private right now. I've been thinking about maybe like things have just gotten busy for me. And so the last thing, because so much of what I do is like word of mouth and referral, I haven't set anything, like I haven't set up a website yet. I haven't started a blog yet. I haven't done any of that yet. So I do accept people on KLS Wellness House, and I'm thinking about sort of opening it up and not being private anymore and taking all my family stuff down. But yeah, so, but my email address is probably the best way to reach me. Okay. So I don't know. Yeah, you have that.
I have that. Or you could message us at Serious Laughs Pod, and we can we put the two of you in touch together, because I just think it's so good for people, women. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For the ladies.
For the ladies.
Good to see you. You helped me today.
I know.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you.
I'm going straight to that closet.
Do it,
Tackling that closet. I'm going to turn some music on and fucking have a dance party in there.
Do it.
Sick clothes out.
Can't wait to see what you wear.
I'm going to love my belly. I love my belly. I love that if I have one glass of water, it goes from being kind of little bump, like 2 months pregnant looking, to like 7 months.
Embrace it.
Embrace the belly. I'm going to call it the Buddha belly. The BB.
The BB. Embrace it.
BB.
That's right.
Kristy, thank you so much for coming on. That is a wrap. Remember, when everything's going wrong, it just means you're crafting a great story. Stay tuned for more episodes where we turn life's lemons into laughable tales. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep finding the best in the worst, because life's too ridiculous not to laugh at it.